So ever since I did Season 1 of SuperStates inside of EU4, everybody has been asking, Drew, please go back to SuperStates. I want to see if my state or province could come out on top this time around. So let's go ahead and see who wins in North America and Australia. Now, the way we're going to do the picks for this series, for all my AI-only battles, is, and because usually EU4 is a little bit different, you can't just pick one nation usually, especially because if you watch the previous Season 1 of SuperStates, you'll know that California ends up doing usually pretty well, as well as maybe, it depends, out of Quebec and Ontario. The northeast of some of the Canadian provinces usually end up doing really well too. So what I want to do is I want to have everyone leave their top 3 picks, who they think is going to be 1, 2, and 3. So I think it's, and I think this is somewhat reasonable. I think we're actually going to see a handful of people choose right by the end of the series, because California, California is usually near the top. I think it's safe to put them in your top 3. Maybe Texas, maybe Florida, like I said, Quebec or Ontario. And then let's, like I said in the intro, let's not forget about Australia. Australia will also be down here, and who knows? I think we almost saw the continent of Australia unify under one name in the last series. I'm not sure entirely, but please forgive me if I'm wrong there. So this is also something that needs to be kept in mind. So, anyways, let's jump into it, and we're going to probably not see as many wars in the very beginning. Let's also not forget about Mexico, because it does take time, I think, for Mexico to really come together. But when they do, there are some really, really powerful states that come out of this region. So that will be exciting to see exactly who ends up dominating in central and I guess the southern part of North America is maybe a little bit more accurate. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna go in season. We're gonna go in series. No, number 5. Whatever 5 is. 5 speed. There you go. We can go on the 5th speed here because I know that the wars will start to break out pretty early, but not super early. This is the big thing that I want to look at, the alliances that take place. So we've got California allied to Arizona, New Mexico, Baja California, and Washington. So they're already getting up this really big alliance. Wyoming, who was a super dark horse in the last series. Wyoming, which is, I think, one of the smallest states. I think they are the smallest state in terms of population. Ended up doing really well. So even if you live in a small state, I wouldn't go against maybe your home pride, the pride that you might have for your state, because anyone really could end up doing really well in this series. Actually, Texas is the big one. All right, so Texas and Florida becoming allied is huge. That is, we're already seeing kind of a southern alliance here, because there's usually something that comes pretty powerful out of the southeastern portion of the U.S. So that'll be good to kind of check on. Is there any current wars? Now, the old world is still a part of this. This is the we are starting at the 1944 start, so we will see all the old countries still here, but they won't have an impact on our game. Obviously, we're going to be focusing in on these super states. Let's not forget about Alaska, though, either. Maybe they'll have a little bit of a better chance. I know that they didn't do too well in the first series, but they might be able to pull some stuff together. That would be really cool. Let's also look at the trade map mode, which I think is going to be really interesting as we progress further and further along into the centuries. Looks like most of the trade is actually, a lot of the money is being made here in, what is this, the New York Harbor? Yeah, New York Harbor is about 5.6 ducats. I don't see anything else that's higher than that, but you guys know how blind I am. I don't know if the crack messes with my eyesight, but I guess it might. It's definitely a possibility. Ooh, you know what? This is a very high trade node too, though. The Mexican Gulf trade node. Yeah, you're talking about... Or is that... Oh, wait, no, that's actually a different one. No, not the Mexican Gulf. Whatever this one is, the central Mexican trade node. About 4 ducats. Not the highest, but, it's still pretty high. The Savannah River at 4.2. But anyways, in terms of religion, we've got American Baptism, or Baptists in the south here, and we've got a lot of Mormonism, which ends up sometimes spreading depending on if Utah and Idaho do well. If it doesn't, then... it can be completely eliminated within like the first few decades of this series. So we might see Mormonism either grow or shrink to the point where it doesn't even exist anymore at a certain point. All right, let's continue to check in on alliances because this will be pretty important. So obviously, I'm guessing one of the biggest rivals for California, which will probably be Oregon, since they didn't Oregon and Nevada. That's going to be kind of a tough position for them then, since they're bordering most of these nations. And also, they don't really like Texas either. Now, let's check on Quebec and Ontario. Okay, so they do not like each other. We know that for sure. They're probably rivals. Ontario only allied to North Dakota. We've got Quebec only allied to New York, and that's actually a pretty big state. New York is actually also a very good pick, but I feel like in Season 1 of this series, I don't know if New York got off to a bad start, if they were just in an unfortunate position, or if they got unfortunate alliances, but they got crushed, I think, pretty early. I thought they did, and what ended up happening, because there are super states that can form, there are these formable nations in this mod, so New England was formed, and I believe it was formed under like New Hampshire or something like that, so yeah, that is a possibility. Also, something interesting is like some of the big states, the former big states like Virginia used to have all this territory, they still keep their claims over Kentucky and Western Virginia. So this is a conflict that usually breaks out really early on between Virginia and West Virginia, and then probably they will, actually let's check on the opinion map mode. Yeah, so they probably already rivaled each other. They've broken an alliance. Ooh, who broke that alliance? Kentucky is surrounded by nations that don't like them. Illinois, Ohio, Tennessee, Indiana. Poor Kentucky, they're just in a really unfortunate position. All right, so let's see if there's any. We've got British Columbia versus Alaska. Interesting. They're losing that war so far. What else do we have? Castile. Like I said, I'm gonna be skipping over some of the old world wars, and we're gonna be seeing a lot of those. Let's also not forget about Puerto Rico here in the Caribbean. They usually kind of are in a tough spot, so they don't end up doing like that amazing. Okay, Ontario has just gone after Manitoba. Okay, that's pretty big news. That's going to be a tough one to win, though. That will be a tough one to win. Alaska, how is Alaska pulling this together? They're fighting Yukon and British Columbia at the same time. Maybe there's a siege currently going on? British Columbia is hiding in Yukon for now. Alaska with 7 regiments. Not bad, but obviously British Columbia outnumbers Alaska, so I don't see them keeping that advantage. Yeah, no, I don't see that happening. How's Ontario doing? Looks like, I mean, obviously they've got a few sieges currently over Manitoba, and one thing that I should probably bring up is the fort map mode, because this will be kind of important, as well as the new mechanics from the Mare Nostrum expansion. Okay, so here's the fort from Manitoba. So there's only a few forts, and this is really important. This is a really important map mode to keep in mind. You know, I think the first time we played this with the SuperStates mod, I don't believe the fortifications were as... I feel like the AI didn't build fortification as much as they should have, but I think with time, the AI really has grown to, you know, building more forts, upgrading their forts, making sure that they're in, you know, okay positions to keep themselves safe from a rival. Alright, so half of Ontario is now under siege. Well, sieged. North Dakota is also in a really tough spot, but, wait a second, who? Okay, Manitoba's going after them. British Columbia, oh, this is actually a really big battle that's going on here. Did they, yeah, Alaska lost that, so they'll be traveling back to their homeland, as more than likely British Columbia focuses on, yeah, unsieging their provinces. Yeah, so Yukon, I think they're only at 1 province, technically. Province in terms of EU4, not province in terms of, you know, kind of Canadian sort of things. But, yeah, they're only at 1, I guess, tile would be simpler, because I'll be mixing matching provinces and provinces the entire series. So I guess I'll refer to them as tiles. Okay, yeah, so Alaska did go back, but he's growing, he's okay. Something to keep in mind is that some of these early wars might lead to interesting secondary wars. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that already ended, and Quebec is, yeah, that's what I'm saying, interesting secondary wars, because Quebec didn't wait long to go after Ontario. Now that Ontario has kind of started to collapse a little bit here. Obviously, North Dakota is stuck with just 1 province, Manitoba, reaching into modern-day U.S. territory. Is there any other possible conflicts? Now, there's going to be a lot of Mexican conflicts that will break out that I unfortunately will miss out on. There are a lot of smaller states in this region, and I do end up sometimes skipping over them, but I will keep in mind when a great power begins to grow, usually along the Yucatan Peninsula, or usually along kind of the Mexican City area. Mexico City usually ends up getting a lot of development. Okay, so yeah, Kentucky did not last long, and we saw why. Kentucky was hated by everybody. So Tennessee looks like they grabbed the most. They got 3 provinces out of that. Illinois grabbed 1. And again, really surprised that Virginia is not broken out into a war for West Virginia just yet. Texas and Florida still allied, but no other wars that I can see just yet. Oh, are you still at war? Oh, that's interesting. So they separate pieced North Dakota, and now everyone's going after Ontario. Oh, poor Ontario. All right, so yeah, they're not going to be doing too well. Now, does Manitoba have any claims on these lands? They do. So they might completely divide up Ontario. This might be completely divided here. We'll see. I mean, here's the thing. Where the forts are, you've got to grab the fort. And nobody's sieged this out, although they're trying. And this would technically go to the Manitoba squad with South Dakota's help. So yeah, you know what? I don't know if Quebec's going to actually get this much here. Who are you hated by? You were hated by pretty much all your neighbors. Oh yeah, they just pieced out. Now, does Quebec keep Ontario still alive? The AI sometimes is nice. Sometimes they're nice in the sense that they keep some of these states with, you know, one province still left or one tile still left. But I don't know. I mean, we saw that with North Dakota, but we didn't see that with Kentucky. So, you know, we've got 2 good examples. Okay, so Arkansas. Arkansas is now being invaded by, once again, Tennessee and Louisiana. I'm not sure if it's because, did Arkansas start off with these claims? I don't think they, I think they had to have started off with these claims. There's way too many claims that they have. Either way, oh, and that war is already over. That did not take long. All right, so Tennessee is off to a really quick start. Tennessee with 4 extra tiles under their belts. Arkansas still exists, but now it's going to be much harder for them to gain an alliance member in this, because, you know, obviously that does affect, if you're a small empire or a small state in the series, it's going to be hard to ally to someone like Texas, but it is possible. It is possible, but for some of these states that are just left with 1 tile left, it'll be hard. North Dakota ended up pulling it together, Alberta and Minnesota, so that's not bad. Okay, so Quebec is still after Ontario. We've got a few provinces claimed in New Brunswick. How about here, Nova Scotia? They're just allied. Okay. How about Maine? Maine has a core on New Brunswick. New York staying real quiet so far in this conflict. Need to stay as, you know, I don't even really need to check the ledger at a certain point. Oh my goodness, look at Alaska. That came out of nowhere. They fought a dual front war. They single-handedly beat Yukon, which, okay, I get it. Yukon is not the most powerful with 1 province, but that is still really impressive because British Columbia, I thought, had the numbers advantage over Alaska. Maybe not, but that's huge. And now Alaska actually has a connection next to Washington. They still have to obviously core all this stuff, but they will. Oh, they're allied to Washington. Okay, so that's going to be a big alliance member. And California is still allied to Washington too. So there'll probably be a secondary war for British Columbia at some point. Northwest Territories, okay. Anything here? That war still has not cleaned itself up just yet. Lots and lots of claims though. You know, it might be possible that maybe these AIs, it's been like several years, so yeah, it is possible for some of these AIs just to be getting these claims. Like if there's a core, then yeah, that was given because of the SuperStates mod. But yeah, the claims are probably just being built up. Okay, so this is the only Mexican war, I think, so far. We need to keep an eye on this territory. Like I said, I mean, usually Veracruz is also usually a pretty good Mexican pick to do pretty well. At least if we're looking at experience, if we're looking at past experiences with this mod, they've done in the past really well. How's Florida and Texas doing? They're doing okay. They're staying allied. Bama allied to South Carolina, Tennessee. Yeah, that's what I want to know. Who's allied to Tennessee? Because Tennessee is really growing in strength now. Who does Tennessee not like? I'm guessing the northern states? No, this is interesting. So we're seeing kind of a divided South when we didn't see that so much before. We saw like a unified South. So we might see Tennessee either attack North Carolina or Georgia. They are allied to each other, I'm assuming, right? Yes, they are. Ooh, but North Carolina has that Florida alliance, and Florida, I think, will definitely tip the tide back towards some other the other side, so the other deep south states. Florida with a 13 stack here. Same goes for Texas. That's another thing we should kind of look at, is overall size. Yeah, so I think California might have the biggest division, or I'm sorry, the biggest regiment right now. Nevada with 12 though. That's pretty impressive still. Montana at 11. Ontario. Oh, and then yes. So technically Ontario still survives. They're still here, Ontario, but yeah, Quebec is really growing in strength, and so is Manitoba. And how do they feel towards each other? They're okay. They're okay. They're in an okay relationship. And Quebec will obviously at some point have to attack Newfoundland and Labrador to get their cores back. But anyways, guys, I'm going to have to stop right there. Let me know in the comment section below who you guys think is going to win. And I will try not to neglect Australia too much, but it will be kind of tough because most of the wars will be going on in North America. But alliances have formed. That is for sure. Nobody has a claim, and no one has cores that they don't already own. But yeah, fabrications are going up all over the place, and alliances are being made, and things like that. So let me know in the comment section below who you guys think are going to win. Top 3 nations, 1, 2, and 3, and then whoever picks 1, 2, and 3 right, I will give a shout out at the end of the series. Please consider leaving a like; it helps out tremendously as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.